To this now, and the Police Minister Bheki Cele is visiting former President Jacob Zuma at his home in Nkandla. It's unclear what the visit is about, but it comes amid Zuma's defiance of a constitutional court order to appear before the state capture inquiry. eNCA's Dasen Dathia is outside Dunuse homestead in Nkandla with an update. And so just tell me, Dasen, what do we know at this stage? It's been very busy out there in Nkandla, with so many people coming and going. Tea was had, and we've seen a few occasions where, livestock has been slaughtered for meat to feed some of the people who've been there. Why is Bheki Cele there?
Well, certainly a great sense of hospitality here at Nkandla from what we've seen over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, we still remain on the perimeter while that meeting takes place beyond these gates that you see behind me. The police minister arriving probably just about an hour and a half ago, and just as he got to that entrance there, that's where you see some of these MK veterans now gathered. They had blocked the path of the convoy of his vehicles, and that only lasted a few minutes, and there was a discussion that was had with one of the members that was in the vehicle in front, and shortly after that his convoy had passed through. Now, as you know, up until this point the ministry has not been saying what this meeting is about. They won't give us any details. All we know is that on the back of this meeting, however long that may be, we are expected to get some kind of update on what it is that they will discuss. But to us, that has obviously left room for lots of speculation, considering the context of this week and the fact that these MK veterans, but not just them, many other supporters as well from RET groups, for example, have been here in and out and have pledged their support for the former president. You know that the message that has come out from these groups has been that they will not allow any harm to come to President Jacob Zuma.
One wonders what kind of hospitality is being extended to Bheki Cele at this very hour inside the homestead there. But doesn't, as much as the agenda at this stage has not been disclosed, one would imagine that it would involve issues to do with the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. Bheki Cele is part of the security cluster of this country. And in fact, if you take this conversation to its logical conclusion, part of what the people who are there have been saying is that they are there to stand guard in case someone, and that someone in this context would be the police that report to the police commissioner and by extension to Bheki Cele. If anyone comes to try and arrest former President Zuma, they would be on guard to ensure that that doesn't happen. One imagines that that kind of conversation would happen, but also Bheki Cele is steeped in KwaZulu-Natal politics.
Well, exactly. I think the general public, as well as any other citizen in this country, hopes that that is a discussion that would happen, because you have to ask yourself, what kind of precedent does it set if that isn't raised within these walls behind me now? Because there have been many statements that have been made here outside by both the family as well as the MK vets, and they were adamant that they would not allow any law enforcement to act on any warrant, if there was one, that would result in the arrest of the former president. In fact, just to give you an idea of how seriously they take this and how seriously they take their role, I guess, of protecting the former president, you can just look around me here. What they've done now is that they've moved away from having all of them there at that gate, and they've taken up positions just on the perimeter here. This is across the road from the former president's home, and they've positioned themselves in various areas just to keep watch. We've heard comments as they've walked past about, we are ready to go to war. They wouldn't elaborate too much on exactly what that means and who this enemy is. But certainly it seems like they are on standby for something. And in fact, earlier we saw some movement which many of us that are gathered outside assumed was some movement with the police minister coming out. And at that moment, they had all gathered outside the gate. So what will also be interesting to watch is not only the conversation that had happened inside between Cele and Zuma, but also the conversation that may happen outside between him and these MK vets. if it actually gets to that before he manages to exit.
This is all very fascinating, though, is it not, Desson? These people, what do they do all day long? I see the group behind you milling around. There was that activity when they were chanting as the convoy of the police minister was arriving, and that momentary sort of, attempt to not allow him in, but eventually allowing him to get inside. But what do they do all day long? You were saying earlier on that it's scorching hot in Nkandla today.
Tulas, this is the literal meaning of come rain or shine. And I'll tell you why. In this week that we've been here, as you mentioned, they've been camping in the tent behind me. In this week that we've been here, I think we've been through most of the seasons. When we got here earlier this week, it was really pouring with rain. There were some days that were really cold and windy, and now it is scorching hot, about 35 degrees, I believe. But despite all of that, they have not moved an inch from their initial resolve, and that was to set up camp here. From the times that we've been here, we've just seen them gathered in groups. They normally speak under that tent. We've seen them a couple of days ago getting their lunches ready. But what actually happens in between that time that they come out and chant and sometimes march here, we're not privy to that and the conversations that they are having about what it is that they want to do. They also haven't given an indication about exactly how long they're going to be here. Initially, it was that they would be here for the remainder of the week. But, it's quite a fluid situation. And particularly now with this visit by the police minister, they seem to be somewhat re-energized and more resolved in making sure that nothing happens to the former president.
Well, they could be there for quite some time, Desson, because given the fact that there's still going to be an application to the Constitutional Court, who must then determine whether former President Zuma is guilty of contempt of court with the attendant result that, there should be an arrest warrant issued. That could take a bit of time for them to stand guard there. Thank you for that. eNCA's Desson Tathia outside Gwatagwadunuse homestead in Nkandla.